Hey, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Thursday, the 20th of March. I hope you're doing well. One more day until it's official spring, which means we probably have a couple more snowstorms left. Gotta love living in Canada. Actually, I really do. Every once in a while, I think I am going to add a little something to Church at Home just to spice things up or to, you know, I'm going to add in little reviews of books that I've been reading, all kinds of different books. One I just finished reading recently is called The Wars by Timothy Findley. Timothy Findley was a Canadian author, and he wrote a lot of books, good books. The Last of the Crazy People, The Butterfly Plague, Famous Last Words, Not Wanted on the Voyage, Dinner on the Amazon, The Telling of Lies, and Stones. And I am ashamed to say that even though I am a Canadian and my Bachelor of Arts was in English language and literature, I'd never actually read a complete book by Timothy Findley. We read parts of books in different courses, and in high school, I changed high school so often I might have just missed one, moving from Board of Education to Board of Education. But when I've had this book, I mean, I bought it probably, let's see, what year is this one published in? This one says the latest it was published was 1986. So I bought this when I was 25, and I'm 53. So I've had it for 28 years on my shelf and finally did read it. And I can't believe I waited this long. But on the flip side of that is I'm quite convinced that God invites me to read things at a particular time. That, I've had this book for a long time. It's been sitting on my shelf. I've moved it from like probably a dozen houses. It's moved with me. And because I would have bought this when I was in university. Um, nope, sorry. Yeah, did I say 86 or 96? Anyway, I've had it probably in a dozen houses I've lived in. 86. No, I was in high school when I bought this. I was 15. Um, and I hadn't read it, and yet when I read it, I finished reading it. It took me a week or so because I was only reading it little pieces at a time because I've been busy. When I finished reading it, I realized the importance to me when I was thinking about it of what's happening in our world right now and thinking about Ukraine. It's a little bit difficult to get into at first because it's being written by someone who's researching the story of a World War I veteran from Canada. Um, and some of the places he visits, some of the like where he's from, I know these places, which made it even more powerful. But he's the author is the narrator is doing this, but it jumps back and forth between the soldier's early days, before he went to war, and then time in the trenches and some things that happened. And while at first it seemed pretty nonchalant, now to give you the fact is I've read a lot of stuff, not like nonfiction stuff about war as well. For those of you who might remember the conflict in Somalia, when we were living in Borden and I had access to the military library, I read the whole Somalia report, which is like 8 volumes, like this wide, of every testimony, everything that happened there. And it gets into some pretty specific detail. So this maybe isn't such a tame book for the average reader, but for me it was, not bad. Toward the end, it delves into a part of this young soldier's life that completely changed, as much as all the other things in trench warfare, would completely change him. There's one incident that completely changed him toward the end, and it indicates what happened to him. It leads to where, um, it leads to the ending of the story that's hinted at the beginning, and it's gut wrenching. And it speaks to, I think, the attitudes we have today in our society about war. It speaks to the attitudes we have about not paying attention. It talks a little bit about, what we would now call PTSD and what was the expected outcome for soldiers in World War I who were shell shocked or who were unable to do what they're called to do. That was considered basically treasonous, and they would be shot for not following orders. At the moment, I can't. They didn't actually call it this in the book, but I can't. There is a phrase for it, what it was called, and it's just absolutely disturbing. But then I think about what's happening in our world today and how quickly we are reverting to things that seem very animalistic. The way we're responding to things, the way we, when we're faced with an emergency, that, the fight or flight, the lizard brain things, all those things, we seem to be losing our minds. And in one part of it, he talks about one of his compatriots in a trench, that four guys in a trench for 7 days, and then they go back to back to base, and another group would come up. And one of the young men in the trench kept his books with him, and they were not like, you know, novels or something like that. They were hardcore philosophy, things like Socrates and things like that. He would read them and write in them and read them, and no matter what happened, he would protect those books. Another one was protecting animals. A bird he'd found, a rabbit. I think it was an owl and a rabbit they had in cages, and then a frog. And when the gas attacks started happening with Germany, and they were then attacked. They they came to underneath all of their equipment, and he had the two of the animals. The other two animals were killed, but the frog was okay because frogs breathe like 4 times a minute or something, and he buried it in the mud to keep it from breathing in the gas attack. The implications of war for children, people at home, the rich and the poor, the soldiers themselves, the enemy. There's a good interplay, and not good's not the right word, an interplay with this soldier and a German sniper who could legitimately have picked off their whole unit and who didn't. And this young man mistakes when they've almost all climbed out of the pit where they had been playing dead, hoping the sniper would go away. When this young soldier realizes that the sniper is not going to kill them or let anyone else know they're there, he encourages them all to climb out of the pit one at a time, and he's the last one to go. And as he looks back, as he's almost gone, he looks back and sees the sniper move and a glint, and he thought it was the gun. And so he shot the sniper and realized later he was simply looking at his watch. And that seems to be a tilting point for him in the story. It's a good reminder, though, of that war to end all wars and what happened after it. It's not a huge book. It's 160 some pages long. It's not a quick read, but it's not a slow read, depending on your reading style. But it gives a really interesting, I think quite a comprehensive, for a small book, a comprehensive portrait of the war on an individual soldier's psyche, on that of his family, on soldiers around him, and on the world. And I do encourage you to read it, especially if you're Canadian, because Timothy Findley isn't like, he is the epitome of a Canadian author. And he speaks truth in ways that are not blam in your face, so that you just, yeah, absolutely, I get it. He speaks truth in ways that you walk away saying, wow, there's more there than I thought. So I do encourage you to read it. It's called Timothy Findley, The Wars. This one was produced by Penguin, and the ISBN number, for those of you, is 0-14-005-011-6. So I'll throw that in the comments, in the notes for this as well. But I really do encourage you, in a time when we are encouraging people to, buy Canadian, elbows up, all that stuff, maybe to go back to our public libraries and take this book out, or order it from your local bookstore, not necessarily on Amazon, although I haven't quit Amazon because it's the place where I can get things. Not a lot of bookstores in Brandon. So I do encourage you to take a look at The Wars if you haven't read it already, or other Timothy Findley things. Let me know what you think. We're in this together, and we need to learn from history so that we don't repeat it. Next book I will share with you won't be for a few more weeks because it's like massive. It is the autobiography of Angela Merkel, the former Chancellor of Germany, and it's a good book. So I look forward to reading it every day, and I look forward to sharing with you as well. If you have book reviews or things you want to share with me, please let me know. God bless you. Have a great day, and I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.